Over 100 asylum seekers in the UK claim they've gone more than a week without food, complaining about abuse and poor conditions at Britain's largest detention centre, with the protest now spreading to other facilities. Also in the past 7 days on RT International, NATO sends more tanks and soldiers to Eastern Europe, flexing its military muscles on Russia's doorstep. That's as the EU considers creating a joint army for the entire bloc. Also this week, anger over police brutality against the black community boils over in America. 2 officers shot during protests in Ferguson, and a huge crowd stormed a state capitol building in Wisconsin. Welcome to the Weekly here on RT International, and myself, Rory Souchet, and the entire news team here putting together the top world headlines of the past 7 days. Indefinite detention, poor conditions and abuse. More than 100 asylum seekers at the UK's largest detention facility say they've been on a hunger strike for more than a week, struggling to draw the public's attention to their plight. Similar protests are said to have also broken out in at least 5 other facilities. And here on RT, we managed to speak to some of the inmates.
I've been detained for more than 17 months now, and my friend with me here 4 years. I've been tortured. I've seen everything.
The condition here is very bad nowadays, totally like a prison. No one is allowed to go out. Officers who are working in here, they're very racist with us. They're like behaving with us like an animal.
Harmondsworth Immigration Removal Centre is the focal point of the protests. It's a complex of nondescript-looking buildings very close to Heathrow Airport. However, there is one thing that stands out. The facility is surrounded by high fences and barbed wire, resembling a high-security prison. The authorities allow absolutely no filming there. Investigative journalists from the Corporate Watch, they sneaked in with a hidden camera, and here's what one staff member told them, apparently unaware he was being recorded.
You guys are taking photos of these bad conditions, like the rats and whatever.
Yeah, they are like
and you're sending this, and you're sending that outside, sending it to news, whatever. That looks bad for the government, doesn't it?
Well, the detainees say they are being deprived of the freedom of movement, which must be provided according to the rules of the detention centre. A conversation between an employee and one of the inmates who filed a formal complaint was also caught on another hidden camera.
So it's trying to improve the service during the core day, 7 days a week. The price that we pay is a little bit of an earlier lockup. But hopefully you'll understand the reason for doing it.
That's probably saving money on a different thing.
No, it's not saving money, it's been more efficient.
That goes against my freedom.
Now, holding people who suffer from serious medical conditions that cannot be treated while in detention is another violation of the Harmondsworth facility that has been accused of. What you're about to see is another video covertly filmed there. It purportedly shows a detainee having an epileptic fit, and the staff are trying to help. According to Corporate Watch, who published the video, the same man suffered another attack 12 days later and fell down some stairs. Protests over poor conditions and violations are gathering steam both inside and outside the facilities, as RT's Harry Fear reports.
Inside these 2 immigration removal centres beside the UK's prestigious international Heathrow Airport, detainees continue their desperate protest for dignity and freedom, their hunger strike now in its 8th day. They complain of an impossible life of psychological torture, held indefinitely, they say, with inadequate medical support, abusive treatment and insufficient access to lawyers.
If you're healthy when you go in, you come out ill. If you're ill before you go in, you come out a lot worse. And that's both physical and mental health.
They accuse the UK's so-called fast-track immigration removal system of jeopardising their chance of trying to represent their often complex asylum cases, having come from fraught backgrounds, some with histories of persecution and even torture in their home countries. But protesters on the outside have also been offering their solidarity and moral support, joining in chants with detainees in the courtyards just the other side of these oppressive barbed wire fences.
Everyone is behind you. The detention inquiry has already said that people should not be detained for more than 28 days, and the High Court has ruled that fast track is unlawful.
Experts say this centre, Harmondsworth, is really like a Category B prison, and you can see the metal bars on the windows. But the immigrants inside say while their immigration status is resolved, they're living in a condition worse than prison. Whereas in prison they'd be counting down the days to their release, here they count up the days of their indefinite detention. So your husband has been inside Harmondsworth for a month and a half?
Yes, he's on fast track and he's not eating or nothing. And this is like worse, it's a million times worse than a prison. I'm from here. My daughter is a British citizen, so am I. My partner's been here working for 14 years. He's been paying his tax and everything, but they don't believe that. Like, she's always crying and asking for him, where's daddy, where's daddy?
The mainstream media in the UK are still yet to really report this crisis, but RT's been speaking to some of those desperate detainees who've been able to reach out from inside. Many have spouses and children they've been tragically estranged from, some for months. We've received unverified reports from detainees that some cell phones have been confiscated by guards. Also reports that news websites like RT's have been blocked on computers inside. Also the website Detained Voices. That's the site which collects detainee testimonies. Well, that's apparently also been blocked, which campaigners accuse the authorities of doing to stem the rising momentum of these swelling hunger strike protests. At Britain's largest immigration removal centre, I'm Harry Fear, RT.
The Harmondsworth Centre has courted controversy for several years now. It's also been run by various private companies. Last month, the UK Home Office ordered a review of detainee welfare. It insisted that detention and removal are essential parts of effective immigration controls. They also claim they take the dignity and respect of detainees very seriously. Human rights activists are raising the alarm over mistreatment and a lack of medical help at the facilities, which they say, well, the problem, although it's getting worse, it's actually being ignored by the media.
Access to healthcare is a big concern. So we have dealt with some cases where people who are seriously ill have not accessed the healthcare that they need. We've seen cases where people who have been trafficked to the UK, people who've been tortured, people with very serious mental health problems are held in detention. We deal with cases where parents are in detention, separated from their children in the community, on all these cases without any time limit.
I think there needs to be urgent attention from the media and the public about how people are being treated. There's a lot of racism in Britain and xenophobia, which means that asylum seekers and refugees are a sort of unpopular group for the media to show sympathy towards. And that's how the situation's been allowed to develop, where people are being locked up for long periods of time. And that's something that has to be challenged and has to be overcome.
You've only got to look at a whole raft of reports about the deterioration of people's mental health in these centres, the fact that women and children are detained in Yarlswood, a terribly traumatic experience for people. We've got lots of reports about the inadequacy of care facilities, of medical facilities. People have died in immigration detention through want of having proper medical care.
RT has launched a Twitter campaign to draw more attention to the violations at the UK immigration removal centres. Use hashtag Detained Voices to have your say about the situation, and we'll keep you posted on exactly what people are saying. In fact, some have condemned the conditions at the detention centres as a national disgrace, while others are urging to draw wider attention to the problem. Some users also suggested the main reason behind the violations is that public duties are falling into private hands where there rests no accountability. We'll be closely following the protests and the reaction on air and online. All right, still to come here on the programme. Greece running out of money, Germany running out of patience. The war of words between them is at least enriching our vocabularies. Words like Grexit and Grexident. That story's coming up.